This is Comic Picks by the Glick.
Hey, I'm your host, Jason Glick.
Hey, Jason, what do you have for us on tap today?
Hey, so originally this was going to be something slightly different, but like when plans fell apart for it, I decided to just go ahead and run with it myself because longtime readers, maybe some listeners will know that my favorite ongoing comic these days is Delicious in Dungeon by Ryoko Kui. It's a it's a great it's a great fun like series about this group of adventurers like who are almost party wiped. It's like when they're exploring this one dungeon because they failed to observe like basic tenets of nutrition. Like they were almost it's like they almost passed out from hunger when they fought against this red dragon. But then the fighters like sister, their cleric, managed to like save them and like get them to the top levels of the dungeon. It's like before she was eaten by the dragon. So now it's like they've got to like go back down there and rescue her. Only the fighter Laios, the mage Marcial, and the rogue Chilchuk, have to like are left trying to figure out how are we going to get down there like after like we lost most of our gear and we don't have anything really to like make a proper dungeon dive. And then the fighter Laios realizes, hey, you know what? We've got all the things we need because we'll just eat the monsters on the way down. And it's like both Marcel and Chilchuk are kind of like aghast at this suggestion because no one's ever like considered like dungeon cuisine before. But it turns out there's this dwarf named Senshi who actually has been considering all this stuff. And as they're trying to eat this like living mushroom that they caught early on, it's like he basically tells them the proper way to fix it and make a proper meal, and thus they've got the ingredients they need to like make a proper dungeon dive to save Laos's sister. It's like, and maybe the entire island as well, because it turns out that the dungeon itself is kind of a living thing that may be powered by some kind of like demonic source. It's like it the series has start off as like a fun gimmick, like a culinary focused like fantasy series, but it's like but as the great thing about it is that as it goes on, like you realize that that's creator Ryoko Kui it's like is using this gimmick of the various dishes that they're able to prepare using the things that are available to them in the dungeon as well as like the monsters around them. It's like she's using it as a way to as a vector to deliver world building and character development like along the way. So you get to learn more about the characters, to care about their ambitions, and realize they're not just like completely one sided. It's like and also to build up the world as well to understand like the very like how this dungeon came about and just what it represents. Because it turns out that originally like there was a prosperous kingdom around here, but things went bad when its like court mage wanted to find ways to preserve it, but he but this is more of a situation where it's like the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So the series has done like great work in terms of like like showing me like a fascinating new take on a familiar trope, and that's one of the reasons I love it so much. And as is the case with any series that like makes me like really passionate about it, I want to know more about the person that created it because I mean, sure, it's like there are some creators who just like delivered like their first series like a major hit and just went on to great stuff from there. But as more often the case is that it's like they started out just toiling away. It's like on shorter failed series or just various one-off stories before like, honing their craft before making their big ongoing series debut. In the case of Yoko Kui, the latter is the case here because while Listen Dungeon is her first successful ongoing series, she's also had several collections of short stories published in Japan as well as one out here. This one being Seven Little Sons of the Dragon. Now, I've written I've written about this earlier, and it's definitely like one of the better anthologies I've read in the sense that there aren't any bad stories amongst these seven. Some of them are definitely like more entertaining than others, but they do kind of like show like her interests in terms of like what she likes writing about from just she, well, I mean, obviously she loves writing about dragons, and that's obvious like from the first story, which is about a dragon that takes up residence in a it's like in a turret that's basically like marking the border between two warring countries, and effectively puts the war between the two countries on hold while it raises its kids there. Like, and it's like the story goes on to talk about how it's like how it's like how the how the people on the two sides just try to you know are just like busy marking time until they can resume their war again, but also how um like the daughter of one of the side's generals, who like she's full bore against fighting against this other side, but then she learns that her side is working with a trader from the other side to get more salt and supplies, and she realizes that, hey, it's like this guy, he's actually like kind of a good person, wants to help us out. It's like it's one of those like hey, realize like the story, like we're not like the other side isn't as bad as you originally think it is. So, and that kind of continues in other subsequent stories like Mermaid's Refuge. It's like, and my child is precious cries the dragon. It's like, and those also like are fantasy focused stories. And also but the best one there is My God, which is like probably like one of the most like uplifting comic stories I've read about a girl or someone who is stuck in Japanese cram school hell, because she's basically trying to like achieve her dream of being like of being a Nobel Prize winning scientist who marries like a great actor, and she's trying to get into this high end like middle school in order for that to happen. But the problem is like she's worried that she doesn't have the skills to do it, and then she encounters this it's like this god, it's like this river god. It's like, and she brings it home to live in her in her aquarium, and she's trying to like make it like keep it alive so that it'll like bless her with supreme like studying skills in order to achieve her dreams. But it's like like the actual reality of this, it's like is a lot more mundane. It's like in a lot funnier as well. It's like, and then you've also got like other stories like Wolves Don't Lie, which is kind of a like a semi parody of a of another Japanese manga called With the Light, about a woman who is raising her autistic son, and it starts off just talking about like doing like being like a how-to guide about this one woman's like efforts to raise her son who has like who's been afflicted with werewolf syndrome, because yeah, he basically turns into a werewolf like a couple days out of every month, and she's talking about like how does she deal with that. That's the first part of the story. The rest of it is told from the from the son's perspective, and that kind of like reads kind of like almost like a like a riff on like what was done in the film Wolf Children. But like when you find out just what like like how the son like is is relates to his mom, and also like this girl he likes, it's like it's kind of it, it's also kind of a neat twist as well. It's like especially how things wrap up. And then there's also like oddball bits like Byakudo the Penniless, which talks about like a painter who's fallen on hard times, and brings one of his paintings to life in order to help him get out of his dire straits. And the series finishes up with the Inutanis, which is a parody of this Japanese murder mystery story called the Inugami Clan. Only in this case, the titular clan is filled with people who have fantastic powers, and one girl who has the ability to turn regular clothes into pajamas. But turns out all these like great like powers they've got aren't aren't enough to protect them against the deductive skills against a Kindaichi-esque detective who winds up staying with them one night and is convinced that he stumbled upon a murder mystery, but it's far more ridiculous than I'm making it sound. But overall, it's like Seven Little Sons of the Dragon is good fun, and it's like I recommend it to anyone who does like Delicious Dungeon is looking for more stuff to read by Kui Sensei. I did um end this review by saying like, hey, it's like if there are any more anthologies like of her work, then they should be brought over. It's like right now. And the thing is, yeah, there are more additional anthologies of her work. The thing is, you can only read them scanlated right now. And like as far as scanlations go, it's like I, I'm of the opinion that hey, if you're buying if you like a series and you're buying its English release, then yeah, it's good. It's like and as far as like series that it's like haven't been released in English, there's no proper English release like for them, and you're reading them, then well, yeah, you're fine there as well because Japan doesn't want to profit from making a proper English edition of this of this manga. It's like available in English. It's like then that's their loss really. So all I can say is like when like hopefully when Yen Press or some other publisher makes English editions of these other anthologies available, then you should go out and buy them as well because they're pretty good. Um, that said, the other major anthology that she's done is called it's like the Dragon School is on top of the mountain, or Ryu no Gaku wa Yama no Ue. It's like this is like similar in format to Seven Little Sons of the Dragon in the sense that it's like like 10 different stories that are of standard like short story length, and they're also kind of concerned with like the intersection of fantasy with with the real world, as well as just like just exploring like some of the standard genre conventions that that you see in like on fantasy stories, like like the first the first story basically involve talks about what happens when this like one hero like returns home after slaying the evil demon king, and it's like it's told that he was teased for being just like a kind of a scrawny little kid, but then he turns out to be like the guy who saved everyone, and like everyone in town just kind of like has somewhat of a hard time just adapting to that. It's not a bad story, but it's kind of slight. Then you got other like the Beast, which is a, a riff on a direct riff on Beauty and the Beast, talking about a evil like a rotten prince who was turned into a beast for his selfish ways, and then wind up becoming like a better person after like this one townsperson stopped him from like killing these or ransacking the town. But she was also like one of the daughters of the town leadership, so they sent off it's like it's like a warrior to like save her, and things go things go badly there. It's fine. Then there's and like it's and then you also got other stories. It's like about like modern fairy tale, which basically talks about like centaurs working in like in modern day Japan, and how like their industrious workaholic nature is making things more difficult for regular Japanese employees because everyone wants to hire centaurs because they're really good workers. And so now they're talking about like legislation in order to curb like the appeal of like centaurs into the workforce. Sounds pretty relative to like modern day concerns of racism, but I don't know. It's like it just feels kind of like like more of like a clever idea than something that's like really explored in depth. There's also like a story about a girl who has like angel wings. It's like or just regular wings, and she's debating whether or not to go to America to learn how to harness her ability to flight, or stay in Japan and continue on as a normal person. It's like and maybe I just like lose her ability to fly. It's like because it's like she wonders like what's the what's the point of that? And then when you find out that the reason she wants to do this is because she kind of likes this one boy, but the story is told from the point of the boy. So when you find out what he says to her about like her decision, because she wants to stay behind with him, it's kind of interesting. It's a nice little twist there. Then you get to the title story, which is kind of really interesting in the sense that it's about a like a modern day Japanese college that actually has a course on dragon. It's like on raising dragons. But the thing is, rather than just the big fantastic fire spewing beasts that we've known them to be in fantasy, these are like dragons are just kind of like you know more mundane versions of themselves. I mean, like they look like dragons. Some of them have more bird-like appearances, but like they're just kind of like just there. It's like they're just kind of like a like this weird vestigial like group like species of creatures that no one's quite figured out what to do with them after they lost their major utility in the it's like in the Edo period. So it's all about just like like exploring just all the various avenues in which dragons might be interesting, from being like zoo creatures to like to produce like producing like being sources of food, or just like sources of like flight, like flight. I mean, one of the things about one of the big ideas that the head of the dragon department has is like they're going to get a dragon to fly around Japan. And as one of their one of the people from the veterinary department points out, like your main dragon that can fly, it's like is only like good for like short-term flights of 50 kilometers a day, and like flying around Japan would be like 20,000 kilometers. So this would be like taking forever. It's like in order to actually work. And even then, like the head of the dragon department has done research to show that dragons are really kind of useless, by any any reasonable standard in modern day Japan. So it's kind of like what is the point of keeping them around then? And the interesting thing is that she points out that hey, this especially just points out that that enough resources haven't been put in to find out why they're doing this. Like sure, something might seem to be useless, but at the same time, that's the that determination is the problem, because you need to actually you need to actually find out just why like if something is useless. That just means like they haven't no one's actually done any like enough work and to figure out their actual proper use yet. So it's an interesting story. It's like in terms of like what it produced right there, and overall it's like like the Dragon Schools on Top of the Mountain is a solid anthology. I mean, some of the stories might not add up to a whole lot. I mean, they may just be like, oh, like here's the twist at the end. Aren't you so impressed? But even then, they're not all bad. But admittedly, it's like I did kind of read this for free, so there's that to consider as well. But even after reading it for free, it's like I was still pretty entertained by what I read. Also, by that standard, is Hikidashi ni Terrarium, or Terrarium in Drawer. This is an equally long anthology, but it's also made up of a lot more stories as well. Because while the Dragon School is on top of the mountain is 10 stories, this one is 34, and there's a lot of different stories here. It's like I mean, and some of them are pretty short, just ranging from 3 or 4 pages, and some of the longer ones will stretch to 11 or 12. Um, there's but but I think they're all pretty good examples of the like of the short story format, in the sense that hey, like just showing you like a clever idea and just moving on to the next. Like the first story, misunderstandings, is about this person like doing it's she sets itself up as a as a as a story about like a standard shoujo misunderstanding, up until the like the main male character pulls this thing out of his nose and pungs it into the girl's nose, and she's, oh, now I get it, I understand what you're talking about. And then it's revealed that this is like like this story the story is basically about a manga creator in the future, dealing with trying to write a historical drama. It's like trying to figure out just how did people from the past like get along without this incredible invention. It's like I couldn't understand this. So and even like the post credits page like has a fun little bit about like historical documentation needed, such as the about the like the love letter in the like in the shoe drawer that we've all seen in it's like in anime and manga before. It's like all the stories are filled with those kinds of concepts. Like there's one story about a woman that like encountering a social faux pas between with her coworker, and then performing a miniature trial in her mind to determine whether or not she wants to be angry with it's like with this person, or the it's like another story about this one woman who's like letting her like apartment just become a trashy because she's just so tired after work, but she can still maintain her one love of like diving into a novel and dreaming about it afterwards. Only the thing is like now her apartment's like trash heap status has it's like has starting to invade that as well. And there's another story about this science fiction story about this planet that is a a religion that it's people that a small minority of its politicians are desperate to protect, but the majority of its people are just are kind of indifferent about. And also how like it's about like these humans who are just like going into the planet but having to deal with the ridiculous precautions made by this like political minority. Or another one involves it's like this feudal Japanese um town dealing with like a plague that they believe is brought on by its like deity. It's like a giant cat, and it turns out that the means by which like they have to deal with this plague are probably very familiar to like the cat owners like around the world. And also the like the title it's like the title story, terrarium in a drawer. Well, it's like it gets its own story here, but it's one of the shorter ones as you find out just what happens when someone like finds a miniature terrarium. It's like of a place that he's seen in real life, and then what happens when he forgets about it, and then his grandma uses it for certain old person's business. It's like again, not all these are winners. Some of these are just probably I guess you could say too Japanese to like to fully register. It's like there's one that involves like a story about a like a kitsune. It's a kitsune shower that like I had to look up in order to try and figure out just what the actual joke was. It's like at at the end. But the thing about these stories being so short and so plentiful, like, is that it's like you just read one and you think, okay, that didn't work. Well, let's go on to another one. Oh, hey, this one was better. It's like, oh, this one was all right. Oh, it's like I think that there's enough imagination in these stories like to make it worth a read. I mean, like, and just the fact that like they're so short that you can just keep going, like, and just eventually like like I said, it's not too long before you'll find like between the ones that disappoint you that you'll find something that really strikes your fancy. And while that's all the like major anthologies that she's done, the site that I was using to like to read all this stuff, which it's like if you do a search for these series, like, you'll find it, like easily enough. So not going to mention it here, but there's also like a somewhat longer story called well, not longer, but another like short story called Children that she did, which is basically talks about involves a like a teacher telling her elementary school class about just how to maintain basic proper security like in the present day, like just not telling anyone your real name when you're online. It's like and that stuff stuff like that. And then then right in the middle of the story a demon comes along and says that she's broken the terms of their agreement, and so he takes her soul to hell. So you're wondering like, what the hell happened there? Well, it turns out that she needed to have observed the advice that she was telling her children. That's all I'll say right there. But this is a nice little bonus right there. But I guess I just want to like sum this up by saying that you know I it's like I really like Kui's work in like Indolence in Dungeon. So I definitely wanted like to learn more about what she had done before before that series. And it's like what's what's here, what I read this series, like, did offer me a lot of insight into her interests. Like she's definitely got like a huge interest in fantasy, and also just and she expresses an interest in like just like subverting like familiar fantastic tropes, as well as just like how fantasy intersects with the modern world. And really, it's like after reading this, I can see like how all this led to Delicious in Dungeon. Basically, it's a series that like loves to subvert like accepted fantasy tropes. It's like, but it also has like a strong focus on character, like on interesting characterizations, and just like surprise twists as well. Because even though it's like it's telling an ongoing story, it's still like like succeeds on an episodic basis as well. So like it's why I've been reading the series in scanlated form month after month. It's like, even though it's like it's like I generally don't like reading like like stuff being drip fed my content, but even then, like even so, reading Justice in Dungeon month after month has been pretty pretty satisfying, because Kui is established she's good at telling like short stories, but also with this is a dungeon, she's shown that she can also like expand upon those to like to tell a fascinating ongoing story as well. So yeah, it's like definitely go out and buy Seven Little Sons of the Dragon if you haven't already. And it's like the center at a convention, bug Yen Press, because they seem to be like invested in her work to like tell and bring out the Dragon Schools on Top of the Mountain and Terrarium in Drawer. It's like as well, because I absolutely like to read read proper English versions of these as well, or just to actually like give Yen and give Kui my money just by buying them as well. And you know that's about it right there.
All right. Well, I always like a good anthology story, so or set of stories, I should say. Along the lines of many manga artists and other writers out there. So yeah, sounds like a fun read, especially if if you like those kinds of things.
Absolutely. I mean, if you haven't been reading, if you've been reading Delicious in Dungeon, then yeah, it's like I can tell you, it's like her Kui's other stuff is definitely worth a look.
All right, you know what you're going to be talking about next time.
Well, assuming everything goes to plan, like I'll be it's like setting a first for this podcast as I talk with a friend of mine about Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda's first original graphic novel, The Night Eaters.
All right, and we'll catch you next time on Comic Picks by the Glick.
All right, later, everyone.